Okay, so welcome to a new class. We're going to start now with a small review of the words we learned last week. So this time we're going to start by unscrambling the words. I'm going to ask you to pause the video, grab your notebook, and try to unscramble the words. Try to put the letters in order so you can identify the vocabulary words. Okay, so I'm asking you now to pause your video. Okay, so now that you've finished, we're going to check the words that you could identify. Okay, so let's see. So we had hobby, school subject, geography, obviously. Then we have this famous TV show, right? It's cartoon, sports, soccer, a writer, J.K. Rowling, right? Comedy, like Mr. Bing, a game show, and a quiz show. Good work. So you remember the vocabulary of the last lesson we had. Okay, so now if we go to the next slide, we're going to see today that we're going to address a new title. It's better or worse. Better or worse. Okay? So let's see. A few lessons ago, we learned about comparatives and superlatives, about comparatives with one or two syllables, and comparatives or adjectives that have three or more syllables, and how to change them and adapt them to be comparatives, comparative adjectives, or superlative adjectives. So let's see some examples. We have tall and intelligent. Comparatives, we said it was, for example, to say taller than. We added the ER and than, right? To make it in the case of intelligent, it has three or more syllables. So then to make the comparative, we add more. You can see here, more intelligent than. We always use that when comparing, right? Now, in the case of superlatives, we would say, in the case of tall, the tallest, EST, right? The tallest, not ER, but EST. And for superlatives, the most intelligent. We're using most, ST at the end, right? Not more. We're using most. And we use the most intelligent. Good. That was a little bit to review what we learned last time. Okay, so what's better than a good comedy? Who's the best comedian? Well, you might say in this moment, well, I think that, I don't know, Al Ramones is the best comedian. In my opinion, it could be any other one, right? So I'm going to give you my preference or my opinions. I'm trying to give examples. Remember, this is examples. It's not necessarily related to a real critic or criticism to these comedians. So we're talking about famous comedians. So you probably know this comedian. Maybe you know this one. Okay. So the first one is Chespirito. So I think Chespirito is better comedian than Derbez. Now, in my opinion, Cantinflas is the best comedian. Okay? So if we compare Chespirito and Derbez, well, I think that Chespirito is better, right? But if we talk about the best in Latin America, I would say that Cantinflas definitely is the best comedian. I don't say was because a lot of people still look at him. Now, these are other comedians. As I told you, this is not necessarily a reality, but it's a way of giving examples, right? Bad comedians. So I think Tintan is worse than Capulina, right? These are old comedians from Mexico. I really don't like them, and I think Tintan is worse than Capulina. Capulina is a little bit funnier. Now, in my opinion, Chabelo is the worst comedian. I really never liked his programs. That's my case. That's my opinion, right? So that's in what regards to them, right? So you probably know Chabelo, right? Okay, so going back to the slides, I want you first to notice here that I am expressing my preference, right? So I am saying I think and in my opinion, right? So I'm giving my opinion. And this time, in the first one, I'm comparing two comedians and I'm saying which one is better than the other one, right? I have a preference between two. So I think Chespirito is better comedian than Derbez, right? Or better than Derbez. You can eliminate comedian if you want, if the people know the context of what you're talking about. Now, here in the second one, we're talking about who's the number one. So I'm saying, in my opinion, Cantinflas is the best, right? We don't say good, we say the best. We don't say gooder than, we say better than. Okay, now if we're talking about bad comedians, we're not saying badder or baddest. We say worse than, right? So Tintan is worse than Capulina. Notice that it ends in SE, worse. Now, in the case of when you say which one is the number one, in this case, in something that is bad, because we're talking about bad comedians, we say Chabelo is the worst, right? So the worst is the one that is not good at all, right? 0 in points, right? So we are using ST, not SE, but ST, worst. Okay? So, as I was telling you, good and bad. So, if we're talking about good and bad for comparatives, in the case of good, we use better than for good. And for superlatives, we use the best. Now, if we're talking about bad, we say worse than if it's a comparative, and the worst if it's a superlative. Good. Okay, so let's check these statements that I'm providing you now, and we're going to talk about fast food restaurants, particularly about pizza and hamburgers or fast food in general. So, if we check the sentences, it says Papa John's is the better than Al Macarrone. The Vesuvio pizza is the goodest. Wendy is the better than Kedeli. Is better than Kedeli, sorry. Piccadilly is the worst fast food restaurant. Okay, so in this moment, I want you to pause the video, grab your notes from your notebook, and check, compare if the structures are correct, and if not, try to modify them. Okay, so please, in this moment, pause your video. Okay, now that you're back, we can see here that there are some mistakes, right? For example, Papa John's is the better than Al Macarrone. If you're comparing, you should be saying is better than, not the, right? We don't use the. The Vesuvio pizza is the goodest. We don't say goodest, we say the best. Wendy is better than Kedeli. No, we say Wendy's is worse. Like here, we used worst. Worst should be here. Piccadilly is the fast food restaurant, the worst. Remember, we have to use S and T. So in the end, the sentences would be like this. Papa John's is better than Al Macarrone. Vesuvio pizza is the best. Wendy's is worse than Kedeli. And Piccadilly is the worst fast food restaurant. Okay? So I hope this helps you to exemplify the use of better, best, and also worse and worst. In the end, it's using comparatives and superlatives for good and gooder, because some words have different forms or different ways to form the superlatives and the comparatives. Okay, take care. Bye.